Hi everyone, and welcome to the UMA Alumni Association's November webinar, Interviewing 101, Tips to Help You Shine. My name is Caitlin, and I'm a social media specialist here at UMA. Leary and Deja will be your speakers during today's webinar, and they will be focusing on all different types of interviews and best practices to help you shine. Lewis is an interview specialist here at UMA and has worked in career services for 3.5 years. Although very similar to a mock interview specialist, his role is more employer-specific as he assists in real-time interviews. Lewis is originally from Texas, and he is a U.S. Navy veteran. Deja is a New York native and the interview prep team lead. She's been with UMA for almost 3 years, and her favorite part of her job is connecting with students and graduates all over the world. She realized her true love lies with being able to motivate, uplift, and help UMA graduates recognize their own brands. Leading the interview prep team gives her the opportunity to grow with graduates, be able to learn from them, educate them on new points, ideas, and focuses, and best practices of interviewing. Before we begin, there are a few housekeeping items to cover. So to give you guys a quick breakdown of the webinar, Lewis and Deja will speak for roughly 20 minutes and leave about 10 minutes for the question and answer session. You can send your questions at any time in the questions box, and we'll collect them and address as many as possible at the end. If you experience audio issues during the webinar, we recommend exiting out of your current browser and opening up the webinar in a different browser. For example, close Chrome and open up Internet Explorer. We also recommend closing out of other pages and applications to help the platform run as smooth as possible. We also wanted to let you know that you are muted to prevent noise interference during the webinar, so if you have a question, be sure to send it in the questions box since we are unable to hear you. Last but not least, the webinar is being recorded and will be sent to participants to view shortly after the webinar concludes. Now let's begin. Lewis and Deja, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Caitlin, for that introduction. And good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to see a lot of you logged on tonight for this nightly webinar. Hopefully you'll be able to take away some nuggets from this particular webinar and be able to use it to help better yourself. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so to have a strong presence in an interview, you should conduct research in 4 key areas. Number 1, yourself. Number 2, the position in which you will be interviewing. Number 3, the employer. And number 4, the industry. So first, let's talk about researching yourself. You want to start by creating a summary of all your relevant qualifications and ask questions like, how can I meet the employer's need? What do I bring to the table? And what value can I add? Next, research the position and any information related to the job. Depending upon how generic or specific the duties and responsibilities are, you want to make sure that you do your due diligence so that you have a good understanding of the job description and ask questions like, what exactly does an XYZ do? Also, you want to ask, how do my skills meet the requirements of this position? When it comes to researching the employer, you should start with reading the mission statement or vision of the company. This will not only inform you of their core values and overall mission, but it could also help you to build rapport during the interview. You also want to know who the leaders are as well, such as CEO, president, etc. Knowing how long a company has been in business and company recognition can also prove to be very helpful information during your research. So make sure to do this. This information will definitely serve its purpose in the event you are asked, what do you know about our company? Okay, researching the industry. One thing you want to do is make sure you have a good understanding of the industry and prepare short, relevant stories about yourself. This will give the employer more of a snapshot of who you are and how you are a good fit. This is what we call the show and tell method. So practice. Now, it's very important that you practice commonly asked interview questions, whether in a room with a mirror or with someone else. This will help you deliver well thought out answers and help your responses to sound polished, natural, organic, and not scripted. After your own practice, it's very important that you set up a mock interview with a career counselor. Okay, so now let's talk a bit about appearance and presentation. So attire for all in-person interviews is business professional unless instructed otherwise. This also includes Skype, Zoom, or any other form of video. Now for men, you want to wear a suit and tie with dress shoes. If you don't have a suit, wear a dress shirt with a tie and slacks. For women, wear a dress shirt or blouse with slacks and a blazer or maybe a cardigan. Or you can wear a business dress. And of course, you want to accompany that with dress shoes. Also, make sure that your outfit is clean and doesn't have wrinkles. Ensure your presentation of yourself is strong, delivering a firm but not too firm handshake, good eye contact, clear articulation, and confident answers. All of these play a major part of you being selected as the candidate for the job. Always bring 3 copies of your resume so that you are prepared if more than one interviewer is present. Also, ensure that your resume is tailored to the job description. Punctuality is very important when it comes to interviews, so please, please, please be on time. Once you receive the information for the location of the interview, it's important that you do a dry run of the commute the day before to calculate for any unforeseen mishaps. On the day of the interview, arrive in the vicinity 30 minutes prior. This can kind of help you to work out any nerves that you may have and practice on your answers. Then you want to announce yourself to the receptionist 15 minutes prior to the actual start time. Prepare at least 3 to 4 questions to ask at the end of the interview. Questions show the employer that there is a genuine interest. Also, prepare questions in the event your 3 to 4 questions are answered during the interview. Now, immediately following your questions, it's imperative to establish next steps and follow up. If you should ask, what are the next steps in the interview process? Or, when can I expect to hear back from you? Make sure you hold an employer's feet to the fire and get an established date. This will also prompt the employer to establish some dates for follow-up as well. Lastly, thank the employer and reiterate your interest in the company. Give the receptionist a thank you card, which is actually for the interviewer, and this should be done immediately after the interview within 24 to 48 hours. If you don't happen to have a thank you card, send a professional email. That will also suffice. Next, we'll be discussing the different types of interviews, and to take you further throughout that discussion will be Deja Grant. Deja.
Hi, everybody. I hope everyone's having a good night. There's a good amount of people in here. That's pretty cool. I was just sitting here thinking, Lewis is about an octave away from his voice turning completely into Isaac Hayes.
He has a great radio voice, that's
Yes.
for sure.
Thank you, Deja. I really appreciate it.
Every time I hear your voice, someone new comes to mind. But you're up there in the league with the Baracks and the Isaacs and the James Earl Joneses.
Great voice, great
Thank
voice.
you.
So today, I'll be discussing the different types of interviews you may have seen in the past or been on or even heard about. I know when I first was able to interview, I had no idea there would be so many different types of interviews. I also didn't know if I were more prepared, that could have helped me a great deal to be a lot less nervous. It also didn't dawn on me that I would need to know how to use different skills for different types of positions as I grew older. First, I'm going to talk to you about pivoting your skills. When you're pivoting your skills, you're using both soft skills and hard skills, and you're looking for those ones that are most important and useful to the position you're applying for. It would seem all of your skills would apply to any position, but you really want to shed some light on those that are going to help you effectively be able to excel in the specific position you're applying for. For example, If you graduated as a medical biller and coder and you're going on an interview that doesn't require you to do any billing and coding, you should probably focus mostly on your administrative academic training. Yes, it is still very important that you earn a diploma or associate's degree in medical billing and coding, but you want to kind of give the people what they want, if you will. Focus solely on what you have to do as a receptionist, if that's the position. Their main concern would be more about you being able to use any EHR, verify insurance, rather than billing and coding. Now let's talk about soft skills versus hard skills. Soft skills are personal attributes that enable someone to interact effectively and harmoniously with other people. For a lot of you, I know you all graduated from Ultimate Medical Academy, you're pretty used to hearing that referred to as transferable skills. So, for example, being a people person, having strong communication skills, and being a strong multitasker. Hard skills are specific. They're teachable abilities that can be defined and measured, such as keyboarding, writing, math, reading, and the ability to use software programs. So, in your case, as an Ultimate Medical Academy alumni, hard skills for you would be things like medical terminology, using an electronic medical or health record, and medical record management. You may use these skills in different questions, such as, tell me about yourself, or why should we hire you? But you will see that they'll be used throughout your entire interview. You also want to be mindful of those behavioral or situational questions. Sometimes they catch you a little bit off guard, but these are the questions about what may happen at a job or how you may have handled the situation in the past. Believe it or not, it's sometimes difficult to pinpoint the perfect story, or you may find yourself struggling with just how much to tell. It's very important to make sure you're sharing a story that is no longer than 90 seconds, including the situation, the action, and the resolution. You want to make certain your story is painting a great picture of how you turned a negative situation into a positive one, all on your own without involving a supervisor or manager. So, speaking of types of interviews, you may have heard of a meet and greet, or I noticed a lot of people call it a resume drop-off. You may find yourself very nervous and feeling like you don't exactly know what to say. Don't worry about it. Today, I'm going to help you with that. When you go into the office and you're waiting for the hiring manager, I would suggest looking around the office and noticing things like the color scheme, if they have a mission statement or core values on the walls, and notice how the receptionist greets the patients. You know what else is really important? Start building a rapport with the receptionist. After all, that person could be the office manager or anybody close to the doctor on a short-staffed day. Remember, introduction is key in an interview, and first impressions are super important. You want to make sure you introduce yourself, give a nice, firm handshake, but don't be too firm. You don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable or scared. Tell the person you're speaking with where you went to school, what program you graduated from. Make sure they know which position you're looking for. After this, you want to find out if they are looking to hire. If they are, you want to find out if they have 5 minutes to discuss the open position. Be certain to let them know you're only looking for medical administrative. I mean, you didn't go all this time going to school to be a janitor or anything else. Remember when Lewis went over the questions you could be asked in an interview? Now is the time to tell them about you and allow them to take over when you're done. I'm pretty sure you're asking yourself, but what if they aren't hiring? I'm glad you are. If they aren't hiring, still leave your information with them, your resume, your updated phone number, and a valid email address. Ask them questions like if they have any times where they need someone to fill in, which is also known as a PRN or as-needed position. Ask them, do they have any work that they might be backlogged on and need maybe just a little assistance? It's also okay to ask if they know any other physicians or facilities in the area that may be looking to fill any positions. Doctors are usually friends with doctors. So now let's dabble into group interviews. Whew, believe me, I know how challenging group interviews can be. I remember my first group interview. I was so nervous. My palms were sweaty. My throat felt so dry, even though I had been drinking my water the whole time I was waiting. I found myself more challenged by the questions that I was asking myself rather than what I would be asked by the employer. I asked myself questions like, how much should I stand out? Just how much should I say? I had to dig deep and really know myself. What if they think I want all the attention? I most likely do. What if I answer too many questions? I probably will. I had to slow myself down and say, whoa, Deja, take a deep breath, refocus. I was allowing my own questions to make me nervous. But you know what helped? Keeping in mind that, sure, I wanted to move on to the second phase. Who doesn't want to be the best? But I also didn't want to step on any toes to do so. So I thought to myself, the best thing I could do is answer all of the questions to the best of my ability, make sure I'm always listening and supportive and kind to the responses of my co-interviewees' statements, and remember to thank my interviewer, shake hands with my co-interviewees, because remember, first impressions, right? So now we'll talk a little about panel interviews. They can seriously be a bit nerve-wracking too. It almost feels like an investigation if the lights are dim. But the good thing is, it doesn't have to be. You're just having a conversation about a position you're interested in with a few people. You want to make sure when you're answering your questions, you're speaking to everyone in the room. Look them all in the eyes and answer that one question. Be confident in your answers. You only can do what you can do. As you learn about the interviewers, prepare some questions yourself to have for each of them. Ask them about themselves, or the position, or the office, or the facility. When going to a job fair, and I'm sure we've all been to a job fair. If not, it could be a little nerve-wracking. It could be in such a big space with so many people. It's a little bit loud while you're trying to be impressive. Remember, your introduction, enthusiasm, and social skills are very important. You're meeting someone for the first time who may be looking to interview right at that moment. Make sure you have multiple copies of your resume, a notepad and pen, and a slew of thank you cards. You want to give the thank you card to those who have time for a short interview. You can't just be giving out thank you cards to everybody for free. I would suggest putting an asterisk or a star next to their name so you know who to give one to. Job fairs can move at such a fast pace, so you want to make certain of the things that you don't walk out of there without. Definitely make sure you're keeping track of the people you're speaking with, their company name, the position that they're looking to fill, and getting their business cards. This is important because if they aren't interviewing on the spot, you want to know who you need to follow up with to schedule an interview, as well as knowing what you're calling for and who you're calling for. So make certain you're getting all the information necessary to start moving forward toward gaining employment in the medical field. So let's talk about staffing agencies. Staffing agencies can be a bit offensive sometimes because they come off just really quick, and they are a lot about assessing you and kind of grilling you for potential opportunities they may have. So always be prepared when you're going into a staffing interview like you would for a regular one. They're going to need some documentation from you, such as form of identification, your social security card, and a copy of your resume. If you know about going to a staffing interview beforehand, great. This gives you time to prepare for possible testing situations if applicable. They might have you take basic reading, writing, and arithmetic, a 10-key test, a keyboarding test, all kinds of things. So you just want to make sure you're prepared. So I'm sure everyone listening has participated in a phone interview or two, right? If not, that's fine too, because we're going to touch on the phone interviews as well. Now, although it's a phone interview, it's still important to have interview materials present. A copy of your resume, notepad and pen, any accolades that you may want to bring up too, any awards, so you're not doing too much shuffling of paper. Sometimes people tend to be a little nervous about phone interviews. I mean, you get to stay in the comfort of your own home, in your jammies, but you still want to make certain of things like making sure you keep something to drink near you, but getting rid of anything else that may distract the interviewer or you, like loud noises, pets, television, music, children, or any outside noises. If you live in a noisy neighborhood, for you northerners, if a bus or a train or you live by a fire department, you may want to close the window. You understand why it's important for them to be able to hear you, right? What you have to say matters. Here's a secret not a lot of people know. Did you know smiling is your superpower when on a phone interview? It totally changes your tone of voice and helps you to sound enthusiastic and excited. The most important part of a phone interview is the closing. Your main objective is to find out the best time to speak with that person in person. This phone interview is only phase 1. Have you ever heard of a Skype interview? It's a little weird because it's an interview and it's face-to-face, but you're still at home. Your first impression during a Skype interview doesn't actually involve you either. The first thing your interviewer will see is your Skype username and picture. So make certain to double check that they're both interview appropriate or create a professional Skype account. After all, they're all free. A couple of other things to check for is making sure you are heard from the other side of the call. Call a friend and check your connection. Call your career advisor. Call an interview prep specialist. I'm sure me and Lewis are available. Make sure you're looking at the camera and not just at the screen. Think of the camera as the employer's eye. You, of course, want to be dressed for the job, and you want to make sure you prepare your surroundings. You don't want anything inappropriate or distracting in the background. Be sure to still take notes and to close any other programs and apps that will cause you to be distracted. A key tip is keeping the interviewer engaged throughout your conversation. First impressions are key whether they can see you or not. And sometimes they can't see you if your lighting isn't right. So make sure that's correct too. So you've heard me talk a little about thank you cards, and I'm sure you didn't know you could also write a thank you email. When doing either one, include these important things. 2 or 3 skills you're looking to bring with you and bring forward to the office, something you guys discussed during the interview, and reiterate your excitement about the opportunity. Also, include a follow-up date and time. This would be letting the employer know you're going to give them a call if you don't hear from them. How many times have we all been told we were going to be called at a certain day and certain time, and we go crazy sitting by the phone to not get that call? But don't worry, sometimes the office is just busy, and the person that you spoke with may not be able to get to the phone. Don't take it personal. Things like this actually happen, and you'll find that if you call them, they may be grateful and admire your determination to follow up. I gave myself the perfect segue into the final topic, kind of like Frozone in The Incredibles, you know, the ice thing. Following up. I don't know about you, but this is a subject that used to make me cower in fear. I'm not the type of person that likes rejection, but the fear of rejection can also push you to miss out on your own great opportunities. Let me tell you an example. I had a graduate a while back, and she was upset because she hadn't heard back from an employer. So I asked if she reached out to them, and she admitted that she was nervous and feared them telling her that they had filled the position. Although I could understand that, I still convinced her that no only meant new opportunities. So what we did was call together. Lo and behold, the employer gets her on the phone and tells my graduate very excitedly that a pipe had burst in the office. It flooded the entire front area, so the office had actually been shut down for 2 weeks. She had begun to tell my graduate how happy she was that she called, because in the rush she misplaced her resume, couldn't find her phone number, and they've been holding the position for her. I know calling to follow up could possibly give you sweaty palms, but you are strong and you deserve this. And a no is not always a bad thing. It's just a new opportunity, a new reason to move on, to move forward, and the opportunity to learn something you could have done better. You've worked so hard, and it definitely wasn't just to come this far. Plus, you never know what opportunity might be waiting for you in a flooded office somewhere.
Awesome. Well, I love that. No only means new opportunities. That is a quotable, tweetable moment, as Oprah says. Thank you so much, Lewis and Deja, for providing us with such valuable information about how to shine in the interview and the different types of interviews. I had no idea that smiling can change the way your voice is heard. That's an awesome tip. Let's go over a few key takeaways that we talked about today. Lewis, you want to start us off?
Yeah, Caitlin, sure. Okay, everyone, so just to reiterate some of the things we talked about previously, remember when you get an interview scheduled, always create a summary of relevant qualifications for that position that you're applying for, and also tailor your resume to fit that position. And just to kind of touch on that for a brief moment, I know when you see tailor your resume to fit that position, most people ask, like, hey, how do you do that? But what you want to do is take those desirables that they're asking or requesting for that position, and then you look at yourself, do a self-examination, and say, what transferable skills or what impactful traits do I have that match the bullet points of what they're requesting for this position? And then from there, you kind of do the matching game, and then you'll build yourself from there. And that's how you tailor-fit your resume to kind of match that position. So you'll look as if you were tailor-made for the position. Think about the skills you have that would be helpful to you to excel in that position. And as always, research the position so you can find out exactly what that person does in that position. You also want to find out what the job entails exactly. Research the employer, know the key leaders at the company, and also research the specialty. Now, again, read the company's mission statement. Practice commonly asked interview questions with a friend or family member so that your answers sound natural and organic. Wear business professional attire, and be sure your appearance is neat and tidy. Give a firm but not too firm handshake. Maintain good eye contact and speak clearly with confidence in your answers. It's also a good idea to map out the commute again to the interview the day before so you can be there at least 30 minutes prior, giving yourself 15 minutes ahead of the interview to check in with the receptionist. Remember to prepare 3 to 4 questions to ask at the end of the interview, and always give a thank you card within 24 to 48 hours. And remember, if you do not have a thank you card, you can also send a thank you email. Deja?
You know what? They should also know the thank you card, who to give it to. A lot of times, especially if you're in a hospital, I don't know if that's anybody else, but I've gone out to write a thank you card before and felt like a complete fool when I couldn't get back in to give the thank you card to the person I interviewed with. And you can't be buzzed in, like you have to get in touch with them and they have to get you. So in that situation, if you're in a huge facility and you have to be buzzed in to, get into wherever it is that you're interviewing, I would definitely recommend giving the thank you card to the person right there. Yes, mail is cool, but come on. Mail is slow nowadays. It takes 3 days just in your local area for you to mail something. and someone else in that area to receive it. So just give it to them with a smile and a nice, firm, but not hand-breaking handshake. For those people who can walk out of a room and go into a waiting room and write the thank you card, the trick to that is giving the thank you card to the receptionist, because it also helps with the follow-up. You may be nervous, but if you started the conversation off with a little positivity, that may help steer your conversation. This way you don't feel like you're just coming out asking them, what's going on with the position, but you're starting out with, hey, I was wondering if you got the thank you card. I left it with your receptionist. So then they're like, yeah, it's right here on my desk, or I did receive it. I never had, someone give me one of those before. Now you feel confident to move forward and ask them where they are in the interview process. So in an interview, it may be kind of tempting to want to talk about all of your skills. I know it definitely is for me. If you ask me to tell me about myself, we could literally be there for hours. But you want to focus on the skills that will help you explain how you will excel in the position. With those situational questions, prepare by just thinking of a few stories that demonstrate how you learned or turned a negative situation into a positive one. Always remember to build rapport with the receptionist at an in-person interview or a meet and greet. Really cool story. I remember I once had a graduate. She went to a dental office for her interview. And you don't want to just be nice to the receptionist, but everybody in the office, because you never know who you might come across. She's sitting in the waiting room, and this, lady comes, and she's complaining, because what's all of our biggest complaint about the doctor's office? I have an appointment, but they're still late. So what's the point of the appointment, right? So the lady's complaining, and she's like, telling her, how long have you been sitting here? This is ridiculous. And my grad's like, well, I'm waiting for an interview. It's been kind of busy in the office today. So she's being completely nice to this woman, and the lady turns to her and says, they should hire you. You seem like you would be a really good person to work here. I've dealt with a front office lady, and she's kind of nasty. So my grad is like, maybe she had a bad day. We all have bad days. And she was like, they really should hire you here. What would you do if they hired you here? And she's like, I would cry. She was like, so I'm the office manager, and I came out here just to see how you would be in an open space.
Oh my goodness.
Interacting with my staff and everything. So
wow.
She's freaking out. It is the office manager. She offered her the position on the spot, and their office was busy because that day they were having a cookout. So they asked her to stay for the office cookout. I was in tears. It was awesome.
That is a great tip to remind you to always be, ready to your surroundings, be nice to everyone.
Yes. When dropping off your resume at a meet and greet, don't forget to tell them a few things about yourself, such as where you went to school, what program you graduated from, and the type of position you're looking for. Then make sure you ask them if they're hiring. If they are, ask if you can have an interview then, or try to schedule the best time to come back for one. If they're not hiring, ask if they know of another physician or facility that might be hiring. Remember, keep calm during group interviews. It seems like you should be super nervous, but you shouldn't. Answer each question to the best of your ability. Be positive, be supportive of the other interviewees, and make sure you're kind. Remember, in a panel interview, it's important to speak with all the interviewers and make sure you have a question to ask each of them. With job fairs, remember to bring multiple copies of your resume, a pen, a notepad, and thank you cards. And remember to get business cards so you can reach out to schedule an interview. During a phone interview, remember to smile and try to get an in-person interview scheduled. It is also a great idea to make sure you're in a quiet room with no distracting noises. As for Skype interviews, ensure that your surroundings and background and people in your background are appropriate, along with making sure your profile picture and username are also appropriate. And like with phone interviews, make sure you're in a quiet room with no distracting noises. Following up is super important and could make all the difference in you getting the job. Don't be afraid to follow up. They want to hear from you. And remember, don't hurt anyone's hand giving them a handshake.
All right, awesome. So now we're going to open the floor for questions. We already are getting a lot of awesome questions in, so we'll try to get to all of those. If you have any questions, please send them in. Right now is your time to do that. All right, so let's begin. What to do during a resume drop-off if the hiring manager is not there?
You still want to make sure that you're getting the hiring manager's information. Get their phone number. If you can, you want to ask questions about, how often are they in the office? What times are they in the office? And kind of go off times that are less busier, like from 10 to 11:30 and any hours after lunch where they may not be the busiest and may be able to speak with you, whether that be on the phone or in person.
Great. All right, next question here. What if I don't have a blazer?
I'll take that one. Oh, is that male or female?
It is a female.
Well, if you don't have a blazer, as I stated earlier in the presentation, you can wear a cardigan. Or if you don't have a cardigan, you do a nice blouse. That'll work as well. As long as something that's presentable, professional, you should be okay with that. If you feel comfortable wearing it to church, then you probably will feel comfortable wearing it to an interview.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I always say, if I would be so comfortable in front of my grandmother in it, then it's good.
Right, like that.
All right, next question here. This is from a male. Can I have a beard or facial hair when I go on an interview?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you're groomed, everything is trimmed and it's neat, and you're not a woolly mammoth walking into the door, you should definitely be fine. But that's totally fine as long as you're groomed and it's clean shaven and it's neat. You should be okay.
Great, awesome. Okay, so next question here. What if I don't get a business card at the job fair and they are interested in bringing me in for an interview? What to do there?
That's a good question. Well, you still should have written down what organization or facility they were. So you still want to make sure that you call, and a lot of times it's hard to get through. Then we have some places that have the switchboards that you have to keep trying to put 0 and pound just to speak to somebody. I would say on a random day, maybe like a Friday or Wednesday when it's slow, go into the office, reintroduce yourself, and let them know the person that you're looking for. So it shows how adamant you are about wanting to take advantage of this open position.
Also, I want to add something to that. Although you didn't take a business card, remember they have your information. So if you find out that they are interested, they will call you because you're interested. So
Great, great
they'll
point.
give you a shot.
Awesome. Okay. All right. This looks like it's our last question here. So how do I ask for an in-person interview after a phone interview?
You definitely want to thank them for even conducting the phone interview. Think about it in your head as they could have called anybody in the world, but they took time to call you. And then make sure you sound excited. I mentioned a few times making sure you smile. You want to sound enthusiastic about meeting that person. And I mean enthusiastic despite the Google reviews you may have seen or somebody's cousin's sister's brother telling you, I don't like that office, or I went there once and the receptionist was rude. Despite all of that, you want to remember you could be that change, and that's what you want to use to help you, motivate you, make you smile so that they hear it through the phone. And then you want to say something as simple as, I'm definitely looking forward to, meeting with you, getting to tour the office, getting to know the staff. When would be a good time to come in? Now, the trick to that is sometimes you just got to back a person into a corner. You want to offer them a date and time. Actually, let's do 2 dates and 2 times where you definitely would be available so that you have a better chance of them choosing one of those dates and times or giving you a date and time because they see how serious you are. They understand the severity of you wanting to come in rather than them saying, oh, well, I'll get to my calendar and give you a call back, and the next thing you know, a week has gone by for a calendar that's probably sitting right under their keyboard.
When is the best time to contact an employer after an interview?
Okay. I take that one. The best time to contact an employer after the interview, you have to give them their space of kind of ciphering through and kind of filtering through the candidates. So I would say if you interviewed on a Monday, either that Friday of that same week or the following Monday would be good, because it kind of gives them that cushion to kind of go through and kind of weed out who they don't see a potential candidate. And what it also does is kind of brings you back throughout the circle by following up on Friday or that Monday. So I would say at least 4 to 5 day window to kind of give them time to kind of, go through their, through all the specifics of what they're going to do, the protocol of what they're going to do as far as like interviewing. And then you come back and just reach back out and just, hey, just following back up with you. Did you need anything else from me in regards to the interview, any other documents? I have another number in the event that you can't reach me on this one. So you're just offering more information when you do call back. Just, hey, just following up to see if you had pinpointed so the next steps in the interview process. Just want to make sure I'm making myself available on whatever day that's going to happen, so you won't miss me or we won't miss each other. So you're really doing it, and you're not being overbearing, but you're trying to be helpful at the same time. But you don't want to do it like the next day or maybe 2 days later. It's good to be hungry for a job. That's important. But at the same time, you don't want to be a bother, because they'll automatically say, hey, you know what, let's go ahead and just let's cut this person because you irritated them.
It's sad, but true.
What if you apply for a job that requires you to have at least 2 years experience and you have none?
Do it anyway, so. There are a bunch of jobs that a lot of times that comes from weeding people out. Just because you don't have 2 years experience, you don't have 2 years hands-on experience. You have about 2 years virtual experience, and you could probably be better than somebody with experience. Sometimes people with experience are know-it-alls. They come from other offices with different rules, and they think when they come in this office, I'm just going to do this my way because I have experience. Where here you come, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to listen, be coached, be ready to learn. All you really want to focus on is being knowledgeable and speaking to what you've learned so well that they think you worked in the office, and they have to keep saying to you, have you worked in an office, so you could keep telling them no. Honestly, wanting to do this position for me, I was super scared. The first thing I seen on the application was that you had to have your associate's degree. And it almost completely turned me away when I prepared for 8 months for this position to open. Did that stop me? No. I went ahead and interviewed anyway. I was the top interviewer, and now I'm the team lead. I feel like with what things that are supposed to be restrictions, you need 2 years of this, still reach out, still do it, still go forward with it. It's not like if it says, if you don't have 2 years experience, you're going to go to jail if you apply, maybe not, but still go for it. Don't stop just because somebody tells you no or a piece of paper tells you no. You want to speak to a person, and you want that person to make the decision, but don't let a piece of paper stop you, because you got a piece of paper that's telling you to do it, and that's your diploma or your associates.
What are the best 3 to 4 questions to ask for an interview?
Well, let me make sure I'm understanding that particular question. To ask the employer in an interview, or?
I believe so.
Okay, so the best 3 to 4 questions to ask an employer.
Yes.
Okay. A couple of good questions, because you can definitely start with, what are your expectations of me as a new hire? You always want to get a snapshot of what they're requesting or what they're going to be asking of you as a new hire on the team. So get a snapshot of what that looks like. Another question you can ask could be, what are some of the challenges previous employees faced in this position? Now, with that question, what that question does, it actually opens up an opportunity for you to kind of explain how much of a problem solver you can be for the company. So you want to ask the question that way to show some of the resolutions you can bring to ongoing issues. Another question you can ask is, you can probably ask them, what do you like most about working here? And I like that question because now you kind of get a feel of what it is or what it means to them to be there. It could be culture, it could be whatever it is to them. Now, this question can also be used as a red flag as well, because if they can't answer that question within 7 seconds, then there's probably a problem. So you want to use that to kind of gauge you whether there's going to be a great alliance to go ahead and affiliate yourself with this company or not. Because I guarantee you, if your significant other will ask you, hey, what do you like most about me, and you can't answer that within 7 seconds, you're probably going to be sleeping on the couch. So it's always a good question to kind of gauge whether or not you want to move forward and affiliate yourself with that company. Another one, as a fourth one, you probably can ask them, like, hey, what are the next steps in the interview process? When should I look to hear back from you? You can kind of go into questions like, is there anything else that you would need from me to move forward in the interview process? Questions like that. So you want to keep them, you want thought-provoking questions, basically. You just don't want run-of-the-mill questions, but you want to have thought-provoking. So like I said, you took your time out to ask questions that's going to be thought-provoking. Like, hey, what do you see in this company in the next 5 years? You know, what's your management style? Things like that. Hopefully that answers your question.
That was great. When doing a resume, writing a resume, what do you put on the experience part if you don't have any experience to put down? I know some places are looking for experience. This sounds like a recent grad, I think.
Okay. You put your experience. You put what you have. Here's what you have to understand. Like, all of your experience, and that's why I say tailor fit it to the position. You put your experience there, but you also kind of look at what they're requesting, and you tailor that. Like, all of the experience, if it doesn't really match with what you're interviewing for, it probably doesn't need to be on the resume, okay? Another thing is a lot of your experience is not going to be under the umbrella of medical, so don't be afraid to put that there. So put it there, and then you can talk about that when you get in the interview. So I would say put all of your experience there, you know, talk about it, articulate it, let them know what you did, but you don't have to put all the job duties that you did there. Just put what actually relates to what you're going to be doing in that position. Mm-hmm. You know, for example, if you're applying for a receptionist position, then whatever job that you had where you didn't have any form of office work or any type of customer service, you can put that there. And I'll say this, most people are afraid to put down fast food or things of that nature. What you have to understand is, like, you know, a receptionist is nothing more than reception work. It's nothing more than customer service.
Fast food prepares you for life.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you're gonna deal with different diversities of people. It's having world-class customer service, attention to detail. I don't know how to make a Big Mac. I don't know what goes on that, so you have to know how to read a ticket. Mm-hmm. On top of that, there's punctuality, getting people's orders out on time, but making sure it's accurate. Reading medical records, they have to be accurate. Information has to be entered accurately. Answering a phone, branding a phone call. Hey, thank you for calling Dr. Jones's office. Hey, thank you for coming to McDonald's. How can I help you? How can I serve you? The same thing is just not under the umbrella of medical. So don't be ashamed to put that there. Just know how to articulate it and word it properly.
Right. Even things that you would never think should go in your resume should. My most favorite thing, of course I want everybody to have experience, but my most favorite thing to see, no offense to the males, on a woman's resume is that she's a stay-at-home mom. A lot of women don't realize how many skills you get from being a stay-at-home mom.
I agree.
Like, once you are a mom, period, you're like, all your superpowers kick in, and like, if you've seen Dragon Ball Z, you're like Super Saiyan at all times. I feel like with stay-at-home moms, their skills, everything that they say is strong. I'm a strong multitasker. You know, kids, you got a kid trying to crawl up the stairs, you're trying to give the other kid Cheerios, the other kid is jumping on the couch with the TV too loud, and still they are patient and level-headed enough to get the baby from the stairs, make sure the baby doesn't choke, and tell the kid to sit down and watch TV. You know, they have communication skills, because yelling at a kid doesn't always work, and especially not in this era. It really doesn't work, so you have to learn how to talk to them and how to not be their friend but be there for them. You know, leadership. You have to be a leader because somebody has to be the alpha or omega in this situation, and the kids need to know it is not them. You know, doing things like being organized and strong time management skills, getting them to school so you can get to work, or leaving work early on time so you can get to a doctor's appointment. So many, like an abundance of skills come from being a stay-at-home mom. So if you are that stay-at-home mom with stay-at-home mom on your resume, please be proud and don't think you don't have any experience. You have no idea how much you do and how much goes into that. Technically, when you call to make doctor's appointment, a little bit, you're verifying insurance. So you have no idea how much goes into that. If you're paying attention to the bills, you're doing a little bit of the billing because you're making sure you're not mischarged for anything. So those are your superpowers, just like people without experience. Be energetic. If a person can see, you know what, they might not know anything, but you can see that they want to know everything, that means the most to them. And it makes them want to hire or want to bring that person on board because they're going to be easy to coach and easy to teach.
All right, awesome. So it looks like we have time for a few more here. Does a cover letter with the resume really matter?
I'll chime in on that one. It does and it doesn't. A lot of companies aren't really paying attention to it, but some are. And if you do, it's a plus. It just shows that you really took time out to really make yourself marketable. Mainly larger companies, for example, let's say a hospital. I think it would be a good idea to do it for a hospital. A mom and pop shop, not so much, because they're pretty much just kind of ready to get you in there, interview you, and they pretty much can make that decision right there on the spot. With a hospital, it's going to go through HR, human resources, and I think it would be good to kind of have like all the specifics on there, because what that cover letter does, it says, hey, I'm specifically interested in this particular place, and here's why. And this is what led me to my decision to want to apply and be the candidate for the job.
Okay, so here's the next question here. How do you make a cover letter? What all goes in one?
I think I know who that is. I wonder if that's Miss Marcy. She just recently had a birthday. Miss Marcy, hey!
Doesn't answer that?
Yeah, cover letter. I'm sorry, Marcy. You guys were reuniting, and it felt so good just now. So I was just letting you guys get that time in. Yeah. So with the cover letter, the cover letter is going to entail like your kind of like your opening statement about who you are and why you chose this line of work and why you actually singled out this particular company. And you want to give specific reasons why you've done that. And then you also want to give your skill set and as to why you would be qualified for the job, why you think you'll be a good fit. So it kind of goes into like you're actually answering basic interview questions while you're writing out a cover letter, so to speak. Hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of how to do that, but you want to put all your skill sets in it. Some of your strengths, you want to talk about those. Like I said, you want to have an opening statement, and that needs to be pretty strong as to why you're looking to affiliate yourself with XYZ company, the strengths and how they fit within this particular job description, what you would be able to contribute, and why you're looking forward to meeting with them.
If you also jump on Blackboard, it'll give you a tutorial and a walkthrough on how to write your cover letter. Also, if you need an example or template for a cover letter, you should be able to contact Alumni at ultimatemedical.edu. And if they're able to connect with me or Lewis, we can also send you a template out if you're having a little bit of trouble, just to kind of coax you along the way.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to do 2 more questions here. If I have not been to work for about 2 months, what is the most professional and simple way to explain that gap?
Well, you kind of want to be pretty vague with that answer. You don't want to let them in with too much information. I'm going to tell you guys to remember it just like how I remember it. With HIPAA, you are protecting other people's personal information. So just think about it as protecting everybody's personal information and keep your personal information to yourself. So if you had, now it's okay to say, I took off some time to be able to focus on school and give school my undivided attention so that I would be able to hit the ground running once I graduated. But it's been a little challenging to find employment because I don't have the hands-on experience. That's fine to say. But if you had any like medical issues, family issues, or anything like that, you want to let them know you took some personal time off to deal with a couple things so that there wouldn't be any hindrance once you joined the healthcare field. You can even throw it in there as, you didn't want anything to distract you from helping other people since that's why you joined the healthcare field. And we all know with being, whether you're a CNA to a front desk to a back office to a patient tech, our customers, patients, people that come into the office get very attached to us. So you can bring it up like that. Like, I didn't want anybody to, have to miss me. I want to be here when they're here. But you kind of want to just kind of dance around the question. Excuse me. You want to dance around the question a little bit without letting them in for too much information. Now, if they ask, because you have some employers that will dig some time and you're comfortable, you can go ahead. Just make sure to remain professional and think to yourself, if I was an employer, would I want someone to say something to me that would make me second guess wanting to bring them on or have them a part of my facility? So just be mindful of what you say and how you say what you're saying.
Caitlin, do I have time to kind of chime in on that for a moment?
Go ahead,
okay.
Please.
So one thing I do want to add in regards to that particular question, when you're talking about gaps, the most important thing is you want to be transparent, but you don't want to be transparent to the point to where it's going to be detrimental to your candidates, okay? Now, what I mean by that is if you haven't worked for like 2 months, but you were at a previous job before then, they may say, hey, so why did you leave this particular job? Okay, well, you can say things like, well, there wasn't enough room for growth, or I took time off to be with the kids. That's what Deja was saying, just to reiterate, or there was a medical issue. You never want to give them information, personal stuff where there was a situation where you and the employer did not see eye to eye, or, hey, I didn't like this particular employer, or I couldn't get the hours I wanted, wasn't enough money. Those things are more of a turnoff to an employer than anything else. But being transparent about other things that's not detrimental, then you want to be transparent about that, okay? That's pretty much what I wanted to add on that particular question.
Great. All right, so we have one more question here. What if you stumble on an answer during an interview? Do you start over with your answer?
I would say just keep going. I mean, remember, it's an interview. We're all human. We'll make mistakes. And understand something. You're not a motivational speaker, professional speaker, or anything of that nature. I'm pretty sure you're probably not taking Toastmasters. So people like that, they practice to have these answers to where they're almost infallible, so to speak. So for you, if you do mess up on an answer, it's okay. Hey, just take your time and say, hey, you know what? I apologize. Tripped up on my words. I'm going to start over. And it's okay to start over. That's totally fine. It's okay to recollect your thoughts. You're not going to be penalized for that. It's okay. And they understand that. They understand nerves get in the way and you can't have well-thought-out answers. They understand that. They know that you're human. So they know you really want to come in and you want to, be the best there. You want to be the best person that they've seen that day. They know that. So just letting them know, hey, you mind if I start over for a moment and then proceed with answering the question? If you can gather your thoughts and kind of, how you trip and you kind of catch yourself before anybody sees you, do the same thing, but you're doing it with words, with articulation. You may trip up a little bit and just say, I'm sorry, I meant what I wanted to say was X, Y, and Z, and kind of keep it going from there.
Awesome, great. So thank you guys so much for submitting those questions. They were really great. I'm sorry we didn't have time to get to all of them. Please submit your questions that were not answered to the alumni inbox. It's alumni@ultimatemedical.edu on the screen there, and I will forward them on to Deja and Lewis for them to answer and get that back to you. So that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Deja and Lewis, for speaking again. This information is so useful and valuable for our graduates and really anyone who's going through the process of applying and interviewing for a new job. So, yep, that's all we have today. Thanks, guys, and enjoy the rest of your night.